Hello world, and welcome to Passion Corners. In this tutorial, we will explore Bootstrap 5, and as always, this is what we're going to be building. A clone of the Facebook user interface. We will be building the login screen, and also the main home screen. Everything we build will be based on the Bootstrap frameworks, and that means we will write very minimal CSS. Our website will be responsive, and as always, the project source code is available in a public GitHub repository. I hope you're excited to get started, and I'll see you in the next slide. Alright, before we get started, there's one question that I want to answer, and that is, what is Bootstrap? Well, Bootstrap is one of the most popular CSS frameworks for developing mobile-first websites. It has predefined classes that we can use to define our CSS styles. So what does that mean? Well, in this example, we have an h1 with a class name of heading that says title. So traditionally, in order for us to style this, we will have to target it in our CSS file like this. We either target the h1 or its class name heading. Then we define our style with a padding top and a text color of black. But with Bootstrap, we don't have to do this, and instead, we can use the predefined classes that are available for us and achieve the same thing like this. So if you want some padding top, we'll use the class of pt-5, and text to black, we'll use the class of text-dark. Alright, I hope that answered the question, and I'm sure as we move forward, you will understand it more. So now, let's jump into VS Code. Alright, the first thing we want to do is create our project folder. I have mine right here and call it Flexbook. Once you have yours, drag that into VS Code, and then now we want to set up our project. We're going to create our first file called index.html. After that, we're going to create our main CSS file, and then finally our main JavaScript file. Now we want to link all these files together. So inside index.html, if you're using VS Code, let's type doc and then press tab. This will create a boiler snippet for us. Let's navigate to our title and change it to say Flexbook. Now we want to create our link tag on top of this and then link up our main CSS file. Next, let's navigate to our body tag and let's have our script tag. And inside that, we want to link up our main.js file. Alright, now we want to navigate to Bootstrap, and their main website is called getbootstrap.com. We want to click on Get Started. First, we need to get the CSS file, so copy this right here, back into VS Code. Let's paste it here. I'm also going to make a comment up here and say Bootstrap. And here is our main CSS file. Alright, back to Bootstrap. Let's copy this bundle file right here. It will be Bootstrap main CSS file and also a library called popper.js. Alright, so we're going to copy this back into VS Code. Let's paste it here. And I will also say Bootstrap here. And then our main.js file. There's one more library we want to get, and that is Font Awesome. So let's open a new tab and navigate to cdnjs.com. Let's search for Font Awesome. So this one right here, we want to copy the link tag. Alright, back in VS Code. So on top of Bootstrap, let's say Font Awesome. And paste it here. So this will allow us to use different icons in our project. Alright, cool. Now let's give this a quick save. And the next thing I want to do is open a VS Code extension called Live Server. So I'll just right click here and say open with Live Server. And now our project currently have a live link where we can see the preview. And then finally, I also want to open a browser within VS Code. So Shift Command P and search for something called Symbol Browser. We will input our live server URL right here. So localhost. And my port number is 5500. Next, we want to click on this icon for a split view and then drag our browser over to the right side and then resize it to a mobile screen like this. Here's good. Alright, cool. Alright, now our project is set up. Let's build our login screen. So in the description of this video, I provided a live link on the finished project so we can reference it during our build. So I will navigate there now. And here is our login screen. We have the top section and also our footer section. The top section is a 2 columns layout with our heading on the left and our form on the right. So pretty straightforward. All right, let's create this. So back into VS Code. The first thing I want to do is collapse the sidebar. And I'm also going to collapse the head tag and then the script tag. And here I'm going to say login and then footer. So in our login, the first thing we want to do is have a div with a class name of container. So in Bootstrap, if we search for container, and here is all the containers that are available for us. So what a container is, it will fit all of our content in a predefined size. So let's say the user browser is 1400 pixel or greater, then all of our content will fit in a container of 1320 pixel. And let's say if the user screen size is 1200 or greater, the container now will be 1140 pixel, and then so on and so on. So here in our live link, this is our container right here. All right, cool. So back into VS Code. So inside the container, we're going to have our heading and then our form. Next, we also want to set this div to display flex. So d-flex. And by default, the flex direction will be row, meaning everything will be aligned horizontally. And that's cool on large screen. But on mobile view, we want to align everything vertically. So we can say flex-column. Now everything will be aligned vertically. And then we want to set that back to row on large screen. So we can say flex-lg and then set that back to row. We also want to say justify content evenly. Then finally, let's set some margin top of 5 and also padding top of 5. All right, now let's work on our heading. So let's have a div with a class of text-center. This will center our text. And inside that, we want an h1 that's say flexbook. And also a paragraph tag that say flexbooks helps you connect and share with the people in your life. Give this a quick save, and here is our heading. All right, now let's style it. The next thing we want to do is reset the text center on large screen. So let's say text LG, and we want to set that back to start. So this will align the text back to left. We also want to give some margin top in a large screen of 5 and also padding top in the large screen of 5. Now let's style our h1. So let's say class, and we want to set the text to blue. So we can use the default blue of Bootstrap, and that is text primary. We also want to set the font size to be bold. So FW-bold, and now give this a quick save. And here's our new title. All right, next we want to set the font size for our text. So in Bootstrap, let's search for font size. And here's all the available font size for us right here. So we're actually going to create our own custom font size. So back into VS Code, in our main CSS file, we're going to create a font size called fs-0, and this can be our largest font size. We're going to set the font size to be 4 rem, and then also another font size called fs-7, and this is going to be our smallest font size, and we're going to set that to 0.8 rem. Give this a quick save. Now back into our index.html file, we want to use our largest font size, so fs-0. Give that a quick save, and here's our new h1. Now let's style the paragraph tag. So let's say class, we're going to set the width to be 75%, and then we're going to say mx auto. This will set the margin left and right to be auto to set the text back to center. And we're going to say mx-lg 0. So this will reset the margin left and right on the large screen back to its original position because we don't want to center the text on large screen. And then finally, we're going to use a Bootstrap font size of fs-4. Now give this a quick save, and this complete our heading. Here is the mobile view, and this is our desktop view. All right, now let's work on our form. So back into VS Code, I will collapse this right here and into our form. So let's quickly look at our live link, and this will be our login form. We also have a module pop-up when the user click on this create new account button, and this will show our sign up form. And also this section right here when the user select a custom gender to show and then to hide. All right, let's create this. So back into VS Code. The first thing we want is a div, and then we want to inline style this, give it a max width of 28 rem, and we're gonna set the width to be 100%. All right, so inside this div, we want another div with a class of bg-white. This will set our background to be white. And then we also want a box shadow. So let's say shadow. And then we want some border radius. So we're gonna say rounded. Next p-3, we're gonna give a padding of all around of 3. And then finally an input hyphen group LG. All right, now press tab. And then inside this div, we want our input with a class name of form-control. And then we want a margin of top and bottom, so my of 3. The type will be email, and we also want a placeholder that's say email address or phone number. Give us a quick save, and here's our first input field. Next, let's duplicate this line, so shift option down, and we're gonna change the type to password. And our placeholder text will be password. Give this a quick save, and here's our second input field. The next thing we want to work on is our button. So let's have an anchor tag, and for now we're going to say hashtag for the href. Inside our anchor tag, we want a button tag with a class name of btn, and then also we want a blue button, so we're going to say btn-primary. We're going to set the width to be 100, and also a margin of top and bottom of 3. And then inside our text, we're gonna say login. Give this a quick save, and here is our login button. All right, now underneath this, there's gonna be a text that say forgotten password. So we're gonna use an anchor tag. And once again, for the href, it's gonna be a hashtag. Inside our anchor tag, we want a paragraph tag that say forgotten password. Give this a quick save, and here is our text. Now we want to remove the underline, so let's have a class here and say text decoration and set that to none. And then we also want to text center everything, so give us a quick save, and here's our text. All right, the next thing we want to do is create our create account button right here. So under this a tag, we're gonna say create form. And we want to give a horizontal line break, so HR. And then underneath this, we want a div with a class of text center. And then we want to set the margin of top and bottom, so my of 4. And then inside this div, we're going to have a button tag with a class name of btn. And this is going to be a green button, so we're going to say btn-success. And then we want a large button, so we're going to say btn-lg. All right, and this button will say create new account. Give this a quick save, and here's our button. Now the next thing we want to do is when the user clicks this button, there will be a pop-up module right here. So let's navigate to Bootstrap and search for something called module. Let's scroll down, and this is the one that we want right here. So let's copy everything back into VS Code. Let's scroll up, and this will be our create module. Let's fix this spelling right here, and then we're gonna paste everything down here. All right, now give this a quick save, and here is our module. So when we click this button, the module will be up here right here. So what we want to do is get rid of this button and just use its function. So we're going to copy all of this attribute right here, and then we're going to paste that here onto our button. Next, we're going to remove this button and give it a quick save. So now when we click our button, the pop-up module will appear here. All right, now let's work on the module form. So I'll scroll up a little bit. I'm going to remove this comment line. The first thing we want to do is change the example name. So let's copy this. And I will press Command D to select the multiple words that are the same. And let's say create module. All right, let's scroll up. So here is the head of our module. Here's the body of our module. And here's the footer of our module. So let's concentrate on the head. The first thing we want to do is wrap the h5 into a div. So let's say div. And then we want to change the h5 to an h2. Just increase the font size a little bit. And then change the text to say sign up. Give this a quick save. And here's our module right now. So underneath this h2, let's have a paragraph tag and say is quick and easy. Inside that, let's have a class of text muted. So this will change our text color to be a light gray. After this, we want to use our custom font size of 7. Now give this a quick save. And here's our h2 and our paragraph tag right here. And I spelled easy wrong. All right. Now let's work on the module body. So I will collapse the head and focus on the body. Let's remove these dots. Next, let's have a form tag. We're going to remove the action. So the structure of our form begins with names and then email and password. After this will be day of birth and then gender. There also will be a gender select section. Next, there will be some disclaimer text. And after this is going to be our button. All right, now let's work on the name. So the first thing we want is a div with a class name of row. So what a row is, it will set everything in this div to be display flex. And when we use row, we can define columns within those rows. And the maximum column we can define in a row is 12 columns. And that is the grid system that Bootstrap is based on, a 12 columns layout. So in this row, if we do not define the column size, so let's say we're gonna have a div with a class of col, stand for column, and the range of the column we can define is from 1 to 12. So like I said, if we do not find a specific size for the column, Bootstrap will automatically distribute everything evenly for us. So what we want is 2 columns. So I'm gonna duplicate this line. So Shift Option down. So inside this first column, we're gonna have an input with a class name of form control. It will be a type of text. And then we want a placeholder that say first name. And then let's copy this input and paste it here in this column. And for the placeholder, we're gonna say surname. Give this a quick save. Now let's check out our module. So here is our first column, first name, and our second column, surname. All right, let's work on the email and password. So I will collapse this. So for the email and password, we don't need to define a row because it's gonna take up the full size. So all we have to do is just paste in our input. And this time the type will be email. And then we want to change the placeholder to say mobile number or email address. One more time, we will paste it again. And the type this time will be password. And for placeholder, we're gonna say new password. Give this a quick save. And here's our 2 new input fields. Let's create some spacing between them. So in the email input, let's say MY3, so margin top and bottom of 3. Also in our password, MY3. Give this a quick save. All right, our form looks much better now. Next, let's work on the date of birth. So I will collapse this and also this. Next, let's navigate to our live link. So here's our day of birth. We have 3 even columns like that. And then we also have this tag right here, day of birth. And when the user click on it, there's a pop over right here. All right, now let's create this. So back into VS Code. The first thing we want to do is have a div with a class name of row. And we're going to give a margin top of bottom of 3. So my3. And inside that, we want to work on the tag. So let's have a span tag and say date of birth. We also want an icon inside this. So let's navigate to Font Awesome. So a new tab and then Font Awesome. Let's search for question. And this is the icon that we want. Let's click here to copy it. Now back into VS Code. We want to say space and then paste it here. Give this a quick save. And here's our tag. Now let's style it. So in our span, let's have a class of text muted. So this would change our text to be gray. And we also want to use our font size of FS7. Give this a quick save. And here's our new tag. The next thing we want to do is create that function. When we click on this icon, we'll have a popover. So back into Bootstrap, let's search for something called popover. Let's scroll down. And this is the one that we want right here, popover on right. So it's going to be this second one. So let's copy this. Now back into VS Code. Let's paste it here under the span tag. Give this a quick save. Now check out our form. So this is the button. When we click it, there's going to be a popover. But we actually do not want this button. And all we need is this function. So let's copy all these lines right here and paste that inside our icon. Now we can delete the button. Now give this a quick save. Now there's one more thing that we need to do. So back into Bootstrap, we need to copy this script tag right here. So let's scroll up. And we need to enable the popover everywhere. So let's copy the script right here. Back into VS Code. In our main.js, let's say popover. And paste in the script. Give it a quick save. Now let's check out our popover. When we click this, here's our popover. Alright, now back in our index.html, we can change its content right here. And we can say whatever. So I'm just going to use some lorem ipsum. Give this a quick save. And here's our new content. The next thing we want to do is set this to be a pointer. So when I hover over it, it should be a pointer. So right here on top of class, let's say type button. And now we will have a pointer when we hover over this icon. Alright, cool. Now let's work on our 3 columns of the day of birth. Now let's have a div with a class name of call. So this will be our first column. And inside that, we want a select tag with a class name of forms-select. So this will pre-style our select tag for us. Let's remove the name and ID. So inside our select, we want our options. So the first one will be 1. Let's duplicate this 2 times and let's say 2. And then 2 right here. Now 3. And then 3. And after this, we want to duplicate this column 2 more times. Give this a quick save. And here's our 3 columns of day of birth. Alright, now let's work on our gender selection. So I will collapse this. Scroll up a little bit. So let's go back to our live link. So once again, we're gonna have this tag right here. And also 3 columns. So back into VS Code. First, let's have a div with a class name of row and also my-3. Next, we can copy that span tag from day of birth. So let's copy this. And paste it here. We can change this to say gender. Give this a quick save. And there it is. Alright, let's continue. So let's define our column div. So call. And these columns are not select anymore. They are actually radio buttons. So back into Bootstrap. Let's search for something called radio. Right here. And this is the one that we want. So let's copy this bottom div. Back into VS Code. Let's paste it here. Now give this a quick save. Let's check out our form. So by default, this is what it looks like. Now let's tweak it. We actually want to remove this form check class right here and create our own style. So we're gonna say border to give this a border. We also want some border radius, so let's say rounded. And we want a padding of 2 all around. Next, we want the label to be on top of the input. So the text will be aligned left, and then the input, which is the radio checkbox. After this, let's change the label to say meld. Give this a quick save. And here's our first option. Now let's copy this whole div and paste it here. We want to change this to say female. Give it a quick save. And here's our second options. So let's collapse this first column and then this second column. We're also going to paste it down one more time. And this time it's going to be custom. Give this a quick save. And here's our 3 options. Now the next thing we want to do is create a custom selection right here. So let's collapse this. And here in our gender select, let's have a div with a class of d-none. So by default, we do not want to display this section. So only when the user check on custom, it will display this section. And that's why we will set it to display none by initially. And we're going to use some JavaScript to show that section when the user select custom. Alright, so inside this div, we want our select tag with a class of form select. Once again, let's remove the name and ID. And then inside our select, we want our options. So once again, let's say 1, 2, and 3. After this, we want a div with a margin of top and bottom of 3. Inside that, we want a span tag that say your pronoun is visible to everyone. And on the bottom, we want to input with a class name of form-control. And then we want to set the placeholder to say gender optional. Now let's style our span tag. So let's say class. Let's say text muted. And use our custom font of FS7. Next, we want to give this div an ID so we can select it in our JavaScript. So let's say gender select. Now I'm going to collapse this div. Let's navigate to our columns div, the 3 columns. Let's change this to be 1. So Command D. Let's collapse this. Now on for our second column, we can leave that 2. Now for our third column, we want to change this to say 3. Give this a quick save. And we want to do this because we want to select it in our JavaScript. So now let's go to our main.js file and let's say gender select. So the first thing we want to do is have a if statement. And we're going to say window.location path name. And we want to set that to equal the /, which is the home route. So essentially what we're saying is only run this script if the user is on the login screen, which is our home route. Now we want to target all the radio button and the gender select section. So let's say const radio btn1 and document.querySelector. And we gave it an ID of flex radio default 1. Now let's duplicate this 2 times. So this will be 2. The radio button will be 2. This will be 3. And this will also be 3. Next, let's target the gender select. So let's say gender select section document.querySelector. and it has an ID of gender select. Now we want to target the first radio button, and we want to add the event listener, and the event will be the change event. So the changing of the check and uncheck state of the radio button. So when that change, we want to fire an arrow function, and we want to target the gender select section and add a class list of dNone. Now let's copy this line, change this to 2. We're gonna leave it the same. Now duplicate this one more time. So on our third radio button, we actually want to remove the class of dNone because we want to show that section. So give this a quick save. There's one more thing that we need to do. So back into index.html, in this column right here, we want to remove this attribute called checked because by default we don't want this to be checked. And let's set the first column to be checked. So remove the second, and then our first column, by default it will be checked. Alright, give this a quick save. Now let's check out our form. So when we select custom, it will show the gender select section right here. Alright, cool. Now let's work on our disclaimer. So let's collapse this section right here into claimer. Let's have a div, and then inside we want a span tag with a class of text-muted and then fs-7. So in our span tag, I'm just gonna put some lorem ipsum. So let's say lorem 7 tab. This will create 7 characters for us. Let's give this a quick save. And here's our disclaimer. The next thing we want to do is work on our submit button right here. So we're actually going to copy one of the button right here. So let's copy the close button and paste it here. And we're actually going to remove the footer because we don't need it. So remove these lines. Next, we want to wrap this button inside a div. So I'm going to cut that into my clipboard and say div with a class of text-center and also a margin top of 3. Now paste back in the button. We want to change the button color to success. And also we want a large button, so btn-lg. And inside that we want to say sign up instead of close. Give this a quick save. And here's our sign up form. Let's check out our desktop. Alright, everything looking nice. Now we want to work on our footer. So back into VS Code. So before we work on our footer, there's one more section that we want to work on, and that is the tag, which is here. So back into VS Code, we want to create a div right here. So this will be our tag. And let's have a div of margin top and bottom of 5, a padding bottom of 5, and then text-center. Inside that we want a paragraph tag with a class of FW bold. The font size will be bold. And inside that we want an A tag, hashtag for href for now. We want to say create a page. And after our anchor tag, let's have a span tag and say for a celebrity, band, or business. Give this a quick save. And here's our tag. So let's style this really quick. In our A tag, let's say class. We want to remove the underline. So let's say text decoration to be none. And then we want to say text dark to change it from blue to black. And also in our span tag, we want to say class fw-normal because we no longer want it to be bold. Give this a quick save. And here's our tag. All right, now let's work on our footer. So let's collapse our login form. And let's have our footer tagged with a class name of bg-white. And we want a padding of 4 all around. So p-4 and then text muted. So inside our footer, we want a div with a class of container. So the structure of our footer begin with language and then actions and then finally some copyright. So let's work on the language. Let's have a div with a class name of d-flex because we want to display flex this. And we also want to say flex-wrap. So this will move the item down to the next space when the user resizes their window. So the first item we have will be a p tag with a class of mx-2. So this will give us some spacing between items left and right. We also want to use our custom font, and then we're going to set the margin bottom to be 0. Inside that, we're going to say English, parenthesis US, and we're going to do the first 5. I already have this in my clipboard, so I'm going to paste that in. So let's give this a quick save, and here's our language. All right, the next thing we want to do is work on our actions. So we can actually copy this div and then paste it here. And we just need to change the text. So this will say sign up. This will say login. This will say messenger. And then Flexbook Lite. And then watch. Alright, give this a quick save. And here is our actions. And now we want a horizontal line between these. So let's have it right here. Give it a quick save. Now we have some spacing between them. Alright, finally to our copy. So let's have a div with a class of mt4. So margin top 4. And then also mx-2. Inside that, we want a paragraph tag and a class name of fs-7. We want to say flexbook, ampersand copy semicolon, and then 2021. Give this a quick save. And here's our copy text. All right, currently our whole background is white, but as you can see in the live link, our top section have a background of gray, and then our footer have a background of white. So let's make that quick change. We're actually going to create a custom class for that. So let's say bg-gray, and let's say the background color will be hashtag F0, F2, and then F5. Give this a quick save. Now back into our index.html. Let's locate our body tag. And we want to set the class name to be bg-gray. And now our top section is gray and our footer is white. And there's one more thing we want to do in our main CSS. So let's use our media query. So add media, and we want to say min width. Set that to be 62M, which is 992 pixel. And we want to target our footer. We want to set that position to be fixed. So on desktop view, our footer will be fixed, and we want to fix that to the bottom. So let's say bottom 0, and say the width will be 100%. Give this a quick save. So everything looks good on our mobile screen. Now let's check out our desktop. And here it is. All right, this concludes our login screen. Now let's work on our main home screen. All right, let's check our live link. So when we log in, here's our main home screen. So we're gonna have 4 main components. We're gonna have our app bar, sidebar, chat bar, and our main timeline. So the first thing we want to do is create our app bar. So back into VS Code, let's open our VS Code sidebar. We're going to create a new file, and let's call it feed.html. Now we'll collapse the sidebar. Let's copy everything in our main index.html and then paste it here. We're going to remove the footer and then the login. So all of this right here. Give this a quick save. Now back into our index.html. Let's locate our login button. So right here, we want to push the user to the main home screen. So feed.html. Give this a quick save. So when I click this, we will be redirected to our main home screen. All right, now let's work on our app bar. So under body, let's create our comment. App bar. The first thing we want to do is have a div with a class of bg-white because we want a white background. We're also going to set it to be display flex, so d-flex. We want to align item center everything. So align -item -center. We also want to give a position of fixed, and we want to fix it to the top. And then finally some box shadow, so let's say shadow. After this we want some inline style, so let's say style. We want to set the min height to be 56 pixel, and then our z-index will be 5. So inside this div we want a container, and we're going to use the container fluid. So this will give us a maximum container, but then it will leave us a small padding of left and right. Alright, so inside this container we want to define our row, and then we also want to align item center everything. So align -items -center. So let's look at our app bar again really quick. As you can see, this is the row, and inside that we're going to have 3 columns. So 1, 2, and 3. And we're not going to define the column size, and we're going to let Bootstrap distribute it evenly for us. So back into VS Code, let's have our 3 columns. So call, our first one will be search. Next will be our nav, and then finally our menus. Alright, let's work on our search. So inside our search, we're going to have our logo and then our search bar. Now let's work on our logo. We want to jump into Font Awesome and actually search for Facebook. And we want to use this icon right here. Back into VS Code. We're going to paste it here. Give this a quick save. And here's our app bar and our icon. Next, let's change the text color. So we're going to say text primary to use the Bootstrap blue. We're also going to have some inline style and set the font size to be 3 rem. Give this a quick save. And here's our icon. The next thing we want to do is work on our search bar. So let's look at that really quick on a live link. So when we click on this search bar, there's going to be a drop down. We're going to have a search input and a few items where we can dismiss like this. So there's actually going to be 2 versions of the search bar. One is going to be for desktop where it's fully expanded like this. And one is going to be for mobile view where it's only going to be a circle like this with the search icon inside. And we want to do this because we want to save some space in mobile view. If we have the full expanded search, it will take up this whole space right here. And then we're going to need the space for our others menu icons later on. Alright, so let's work on the desktop search bar. So in search bar, let's have a div with a class name of input-group. And then we want a margin left, so MS2. S stands for start. So in Bootstrap, start will be left and then end will be right. And we want to give some margin left to have some spacing between the icons like this. Alright, inside this we will have our mobile search bar and then our desktop search bar. So let's work on the desktop. Alright, the first thing we want to do is have a span tag with a class name of input-group-prepend. And then on mobile view, we want it to be display none. And then our desktop view, so d-lg, we want it to display block. Alright, so inside our span tag, we want a div. Inside our div, we want our search icon and also a text that says search flexbook. So let's go grab that icon into Font Awesome. Let's search for search. And this is the one that we want. Let's copy that back into VS Code. We're going to paste it here. And also we want a paragraph tag that says search flexbook. Give this a quick save. Now let's look into our desktop. Let's log in. And here it is. Let's style it. So back into VS Code. So this div right here, we want to say class. And we want to say input group -text. We also want the background to be gray. And we want to set the border to be 0. Next, we want a rounded input. So let's say rounded -pill. And then we're going to do some inline style. Let's set the min height to be 40 pixel, and then the min width to be 230 pixel. After this, let's give some spacing in our icon. So margin right, ME-2, and then text muted to be a gray icon. Also in our paragraph tag, first we want to remove the default spacing, so M-0, and use our custom font size, and also text muted. Give this a quick save. Now let's check out our desktop. Alright, looking much better. So back into VS Code. In our column div, we want to say display flex. And also say align item center. Give this a quick save. And here's our search bar. So the next thing we want to do is create the drop-down menu. So when we click it, it will show the drop-down menu right here. So let's navigate to Bootstrap. We want to search for something called drop-downs. And let's get this right here. So copy everything back into VS Code. So below our span, this will be our search drop-down. And we're going to paste in our clipboard. We're actually going to remove the drop-down div. So let's remove this. And also this. We're going to need the function of the button. So let's copy these attributes right here. And we're going to paste that in our span tag. Now we want to remove the button. And then let's rename this ID accordingly. So Command D to copy the same words. And let's say search menu. Give this a quick save. So back into our desktop. If I click on this, here's our search menu dropdown. Alright, let's work on the dropdown. So back into VS Code. The first thing we want to do is set the span type to be a button. So this will give us a cursor pointer. Now let's scroll down here. We want to remove the border. So let's say border 0. We also want a box shadow. So let's say shadow and a padding of 3 all around. Next, we want to say overflow auto to enable scrolling within this menu dropdown. Now we can remove all these LI and create our own. So the first thing we have is the search input and then search result. So let's work on the search input. Let's have an LI. And then we want an input with a class of, we want to remove the border, set the background color to be gray, and this will be a drop-down item. Let's set the placeholder to say search flexbook. We also want to use the autofocus attribute. So when the user opens this drop-down, it will autofocus into the search input. Next, we also want some inline style in our UL. So let's say style. Let's give it a width of 20M and then a max height of 600 pixel. Give this a quick save and check it out. Here's our input dropdown. All right, let's continue. So back into VS Code. We want to work on these search results. So these search result is going to be dismissible. And we're going to use a Bootstrap alert for that. So back into Bootstrap. Let's search for something called alert. And let's scroll down. This is the one that we want right here, where it can be dismissible like this. All right, let's copy this code back into VS Code. And we want to say result 1 right here. We want an li tag with a class name of my4, so margin top and bottom of 4. And inside that, we want to paste in our alert. We're going to remove these strong lines like that. And then we're going to have a div and set that to be display flex and then align item center. Inside that div, we want an avatar and the text of the search result. So let's create our image tag. We're going to use Unsplash API to pull in images. So let's say https://source.unsplash.com/random/1. And for the alt tag, let's say avatar. We also want to define a class of rounded circle because we want our avatar to be a circle. And then we want a margin right, so ME-2. We also want some inline style. We're going to set the width to be 35 pixel, height 35 pixel, and then object fit cover. After this, we want a paragraph tag with a class of M-0 to remove the default spacing. And inside that, let's just say lorem ipsum. Give this a quick save. Check out our desktop. Here's our search result, and we can dismiss it like that. And I think I spelled circle wrong. So right here, give us a quick save. Back into our desktop. Now our avatar is a circle. All right, let's fix this yellow background right here. So back into VS Code. Let's target our alert div right here. And let's look for alert warning. Let's remove that. We're also going to remove alert dismissible. We're going to use the drop down item class. And then we want a padding of 1 all around. Remove the margin. We want to display flex. Align item center. And then justify content between. Alright, give this a quick save. Now let's check out our desktop. Looking much better. Alright, so back into VS Code. So the search result will be the same. Therefore, I will copy this whole li tag. And it's just going to change the avatar picture. So I'm going to copy this about 2 times. So this will be the second result. Change the picture to be random 2. I'll collapse this. And then result 3. Change random to be 3. Collapse that. Give it a quick save. Now back into our desktop. Here's our 3 results. But when we dismiss it, the whole drop down closed. So let's adjust that really quick. So back into VS Code. Let's scroll up and locate our span tag. Right here. So our span tag is in charge of our drop down menu. So we want to use an attribute called data-bs-auto-close. And we want to set that to be outside. Give it a quick save. Now back into our desktop. Here's our drop down search. And when we dismiss an item, everything is working fine. Alright, now let's work on our mobile view. So back into VS Code. We're actually going to copy this whole span right here. And we're going to paste it here to our mobile. And we're just going to tweak a few things. First, we're going to remove d-none. And we're going to change block to none. So on large screen, this will not be displayed. Next, we're going to remove this paragraph tag. And then we're going to remove the margin. And then for rounded pill, it will be rounded circle. And then finally remove the min width. Give this a quick save. And here's our mobile search. And when we click it, we still see our drop down menu, and it is also dismissible. Alright, cool. That's wrap up our search. Now let's work on our nav, which is this section right here. So back into VS Code. Let's collapse this. And then navigate here. Alright, the first thing we want to do is say d-none. So on mobile view, this section will not show. And then we want to say d-lg flex. So on desktop view, it will be display flex. And then we will justify content center everything. Alright, so the structure of the nav begin with the home icon, followed by market. Next would be group, and then gaming. So let's work on the home icon. What we want is a div with a class name of mx-4 to have some margin left and right. And then we also want a custom class of nav__btn, and then also nav__btn-active. Inside this, we want a button tag with a class name of btn, and then px4, so padding of left and right of 4. And then inside this, we want our icon. So let's navigate to font awesome. and search for something called home. Let's grab this one right here. Let's copy this back into VS Code. Let's paste that in. Next, we want to change the color. So let's say text muted. And then the font size will be FS4. Give this a quick save. Check out our desktop. Here's our first icon. Now let's work on the other fours. So back into VS Code. Let's copy everything here and paste it here. And the icon will be FA-store. Give this a quick save. And here's our second icon. Back into VS Code. Now our third icon is going to be a little bit different. So in our live link, we have a notification badge right here. So in Bootstrap, let's search for something called badge. Let's scroll down. And this is the one that we want. So copy everything. Back into VS Code. We still want our div with mx-4 and nav__btn. And inside that, we want to paste in our badge. And then instead of inbox, we want to put in our icon. So back into font awesome. Let's search for something called user. Let's grab this one right here. Copy that back into VS Code. Let's paste it in here. And then we're actually going to take all these span tags, cut into our clipboard, and paste it inside our icon. Now we're going to tweak the button. So let's remove all these class. Let's give it a padding of left and right of 4. And then inside our icon, we want to set the position to be relative. Text will be muted. And then the font size will be 4. Next in this span tag, we want to change this to a 1. We can remove this message right here. Next inside this span tag, we want to have some inline style and set the font size to be 0.5 rem. Give this a quick save. Now let's check out our desktop. And here's our group icon with the badge. Alright, now let's work on our last icon. So back into VS Code. Let's copy the market div. And then paste it here into gaming. Let's change the icon from store to gamepad. Give it a quick save. And here's our navs. The next thing we want to do is work on the hover effects for these. So back into VS Code. Let's remove the active class right here. And then collapse this. We can also collapse the group. Remove the active class in market. Also collapse it. And home should be the only active one. So give this a quick save. Now let's navigate to our main CSS file. And let's say nav button. We want to target our custom class of nav__btn and then the button. Now we want to select the hover state. We want to set the background color to be this gray. So this color right here. Let's copy it. And now we also want to target the icon. So when we hover over the button, we want to change the icon button to be blue. So let's say 0D6 EFD will be our color. Next, we want to target our active class. So nav__btn-active. And we want to target the icon and then set the color to be the blue. So this color right here. And then finally, in our live link, there is a border bottom right here on the active items. So let's create that. What we want to do is target our nav__btn-active. And we want to set the position to be relative because we're going to use a pseudo class. So nav__btn-active :before. We're going to set the content to be empty. I will scroll up a little bit. We're going to set the position to be absolute. Next, we're gonna say bottom will be a negative 4.5 pixel. Left will be 0. We're gonna transform translate Y to be 4.5 pixel. Our width will be 100%. Height will be 3 pixel. And then we want to say border bottom to be 3 pixels solid. And we want to use the blue. And finally, we want to say important. Give this a quick save. Now let's check out our desktop. Here's our border, but there's something wrong with our active class. So let's double check that really quick. We have to set everything to be important because we have to override the default Bootstrap hover. So let's say important here, also here, and then here, and here. Instead of background, it should be color. Now give this a quick save back into our desktop, and here it is. All right, now let's work on our menus. So back into VS Code, back in our feed.html. Let's collapse this. Now inside our menu column, let's also say display flex. And we want to align item center everything. We also want to say justify content end, because we want to push everything all the way to the right. All right, let's check out our desktop and into our live link. Here will be our menus. So we have our avatar, the main menu, our chat, our notifications, and then our secondary menu. All right, let's work that out. So back into VS Code. First thing is our avatar, and then the main menu, and then chat, notification, and then finally secondary menu. Let's flush out our avatar. So let's have a div with a class name of d-none. So we do not want to display our avatar in mobile screen, but we want to display it in our desktop. So let's say d-xl flex. We want to target our extra large screen. And then we want to say align item center. Also justify content center. Inside this, we will have our image tag. Once again, we will use the Unsplash API. So https://source unsplash.com. And this time we're going to use a collection of happy people for our default avatar. For the alt, let's say avatar. We also want to say class, and we want a circle avatar. So let's say rounded -circle. Next, we want some margin right, so ME2. After this, we want to define some inline style. So let's set the width to be 38 pixel. The height will also be 38 pixel. And then object fit cover. After this, we will give our main user a name. So let's have a paragraph tag. And then remove the default margin, so M-0. And our main user will be John. And once again, I misspelled circle. Now give this a quick save. Let's check out our desktop. And here's our avatar. All right, let's continue. I will collapse this. And let's work on our main menu. Once again, we want a div with a class of dflex. We also want to align item center everything. And also justify content center. We want a padding of 1 all around. And then some margin on the side of 2. And then finally, we want to set the background to our custom gray. Inside this, we will have our menu icon. So back into Font Awesome. Let's search for menu. And this is the icon right here, ellipsis. Let's copy that back into VS Code. Let's paste that down here. And then we also want to define some inline style in this div. So width 38 pixel, height will also be 38. Object fit will be cover. Give this a quick save. There's one more class, and that is rounded circle, because we want this to be a circle. So let's say rounded circle. Give this a quick save. And here's our main menu icon. The next thing we want to do is create a drop-down. So when the user click this, it will have a drop-down menu for us. So once again, let's navigate to Bootstrap. Search for our drop-down. And let's grab this one right here. Copy everything back into VS Code. So down here under this div, let's say main menu DD for drop-down. Let's paste everything in. What we want to do is remove this drop-down div. We also want to remove this button, but we need its function. So let's copy all these attributes right here. And we want to paste it here into this div. Next, we want to change the name. So right here, let's press Command D to copy the same words. And let's say main menu. We also want to define one more attribute, and that is the type. And we want to set that to be a button. Now finally, let's remove this button. Give this a quick save. So when we click this icon, here's our dropdown. Now let's work on the dropdown. So let's navigate to the live link again. And here's going to be our main menu. It's pretty long. There's this top section of menu and the search. Next we have the social, an entertainment section, and then a create section. Alright, so let's work that out. Back into VS Code. The first thing we want to do is target our UL tag. And we want to remove the border. We also want to give it a shadow, a padding of 3 of all around, and then overflow auto to enable scrolling inside this menu dropdown. After this, we want to define some inline style. So let's say our width will be 23M, and then max height will be 600 pixel. And then we're actually going to remove all these LIs. So our structure will be the menu section and then the create section. So let's work on the menu section. So let's have a div. And in this menu section, we have our header, our search, our social items, and then the entertainment items. All right, let's work on our header. So let's have an li tag with a class of p-1, so a padding of 1 all around, and then mx2 for some size margin. Inside that, we want an edge 2, that same menu. Give this a quick save. And here's our header. All right, let's work on our search. So the first thing we want to do is have an li tag with a class of p-1. Inside that, we want our search input. So let's have a div with a class now of input-group text, and also the background gray. Next, we want to remove the border, so border-0, and then we want to say rounded pill. We also want to define some inline style. So let's say min height will be 40 pixel, a min width of 230 pixel. So inside our div, we want the search icon. So let's say fas fa-search, and then we want some margin right, so me-2, and then a text color of gray. After this, we want our input. So let's say input with a class of form control. We also want to say rounded-pill, remove the border, and then background of gray. We want to set our placeholder to say search menu. All right, give this a quick save. And here's our search. All right, let's work on the social item. So I will collapse this, also this, and to our social items. The first thing we want to do is have an edge 4, and we want a margin of all around of 2, so m-2. And inside we want to say social. Now let's list out our item. So let's say S1 for item 1. Inside that we want an li tag with a class of my-2 and also p-1. And then inside this we want our anchor tag. So hashtag for now, and then class. We want to remove the underline. So let's say text decoration to be none. Also text to be dark. We want to display flex, align item center, and then justify content between. So let's take a quick look at our live link. So we're gonna have an icon and then the text. All right, so back into VS Code. So inside our A tag, we want our icon. So let's have a div with a class of p-2. And here we want our image tag. And for the source, we're gonna reference the Facebook icon. I already have the link in my clipboard, so I'm gonna paste it here. And then for the alt tag, we're gonna say icon from FB. We also want to define a class of rounded circle. And then finally, some inline style. The width will be 48 pixel. Height will also be 48 pixel. And then we want to say object fit cover. After this, we want our text. So let's have a div. Inside, let's have a paragraph tag with class of m-0. We want to say campus. And then underneath, let's have a span tag with class of fs-7. And then text-muted. And then inside that, let's say lorem 10 characters. Give this a quick save. And here's our first item. All right, we're gonna do the first 6 items, and they're basically the same. The only difference between them is the text and the icon. So I'm actually gonna duplicate this line 5 more times. All right, so copy. Give it a quick save. And here's our social items. The next thing we want to do is work on our entertainment items. So once again, it's going to be the exact same thing. So I will copy the h4 and then 3 LIs into our clipboard. The first thing we want to do is separate the 2 sections with a horizontal break. And I will paste in the clipboard. Let's change the h4 to say entertainment. Now collapse this, and also this. This will be E1, E2, and then E3. Give this a quick save. Here's our menu, our search, our social items, and then our entertainment items. All right, that finished our menu section. Now let's work on our create section. So let's go to our live links. And here's our create section. We have a total of 9 items. All right, so let's work that out. Back into VS Code. Let's create a div. Inside, we will have our header and then our item. So let's say C1 for the first item. Now let's work on a header. Let's have an li tag with a class of p1 hyphen and also mx-2. Inside that, we want an h2 that say create. Give this a quick save. And here is our create section. We also want a horizontal break. So let's say HR. And here's our break. Now let's work on the items. So our first item, let's have an li tag and then a class of my-2 and then also p-1. Let's set up our anchor tag, hashtag for now. Let's say class, text decoration none. Also text dark, display flex, and then align item center. Inside our A tag, we want a div and say display flex, align item center. Also justify content center. Rounded circle, background of gray, padding of 1 all around, and then a margin right of 3. Inside this, we want our icon. So let's navigate to Font Awesome. Let's search for Edit. Let's get this first one right here. Copy this back into VS Code. Let's paste in our icon. Now beneath this, let's set up a div. Inside, we want our paragraph tag with a class of m-0. And we want to say post. We also need to define an inline style right here in this div. So let's say style will be 38 pixel. Height will also be 38 pixel. And once again, I misspelled circle. So right here. Now let's give this a quick save. And here's our first create item. All right, once again, the only difference between these items are the icon and the text. So I would duplicate this 8 more times to have our 9 items, and then you can change its content accordingly later on your time. All right, so I'll collapse this line, copy everything here, and let's duplicate this 8 times. The next thing we want to do is set a horizontal break between 3 and 4. So an HR right there. All right, let's give this a quick save. And here's our main menu. And here's our 9 items. All right, now let's work on the chat menu. So I will collapse this. So once again, it's going to be the same icon. So let's copy it from our main menu, which is right here. And we're gonna paste it here. And instead of the ellipsis icon, it's gonna be the comment icon. Give this a quick save. And here's our icon. The next thing we wanna do is create the dropdown. So let's copy this UL right here. And let's paste it here. We're gonna empty out everything inside the UL. And then we're gonna change the drop-down menu accordingly right here. So Command D and say chat menu. Give this a quick save. And now when we click our chat icon, here's our drop-down menu. Now let's work that out. So back into our live link. Here's our chat. We have the header, the search, and then our messages. When we click on this compose icon, we will have a chat box right here. And then this icon will expand into Messenger app. And here is our chat settings. All right, let's work that out. So back into VS Code. So we're gonna have our header, our search, and then our messages. So let's say message 1 here for now. Now let's work on our header. So let's have an li tag with a class of p-1. Inside this, we want a div with a class of dflex. And let's say justify content between. And inside this div, we will have our message and then our icons right here with the drop-down menus. All right, so back into VS Code. So let's have an h2. Inside, let's say message. Now let's have our icons. So let's create a div for that. I will scroll up a little bit. We will have our settings, our expand, and then new message icon. All right, let's work that out. So let's navigate to Font Awesome. Once again, search for menu. And this is the icon that we want. Let's copy that back in VS Code. Let's say text muted and then mx-2. Give this a quick save. And here's our first icon. Let's work on the other 2. So let's copy this line and let's paste it here. And then we want to change this to say expand hyphen arrows hyphen alt. Let's go down here and paste it in one more time. And then we want to remove this class name and say edit. Give this a quick save. And here's our 3 icons. Now let's work on the drop down menu within it. So the first one will be our settings. So the first thing we want to do is say type will be button. And then we want to use a Bootstrap attribute of data-bs toggle. And we want to set that to be drop down. And now we want our setting drop down. So let's create a UL tag with a class of drop down -menu. We also want a shadow class. Next, let's have an inline style and say the width will be 18M. All right, so inside our drop down, let's look at our live link. We have our title and then these 2 main sections right here. All right, let's work that out. Back into VS Code. Let's say title and then our items. So let's say item 1 for now. Now let's work on our title. Let's have a div with a class of p-2. Inside we want an h5. That's say chat settings. Below this we want a span tag with a class of text-muted. Also fs-7. And then let's say lorem 5. Give this a quick save. All right, there's one more thing that we need to do. So let's scroll up into our chat div right here. Let's expand it. We need to set the auto close to be outside. So let's say data-bs auto close and say outside. So this will allow us to have a nested dropdown within a dropdown. So give this a quick save. So here's our first dropdown. And now here's our nested dropdown right here, which is our settings. All right, now let's continue. So recollapse this. Let's scroll down. Now we want to work on our item. So I will collapse the title and focus on the item. So let's go to the live link. So our item consists of the icon, the text, and also a toggle button. So back into VS Code. First, let's create our li tag. Inside, let's have a div with a class of dropdown -item. And the reason we keep using this dropdown -item class is to take advantage of its hover state. So back into our live link. If you notice, if I hover over this, we'll have these hover effects. And that's coming from the dropdown -item class. All right, so back in VS Code, the next class we want to define is deflex. We want to say align item center. Also justify content between. Inside this will be our icon and our text, and then the toggle button. So let's work on the icon. We want to have a div with a class of deflex, and then align item center. Now let's go grab the icon. So into font awesome, let's search for phone. Let's grab this one right here. And we're gonna paste it here. Let's give some margin right. So ME3. And then a paragraph tag with a class of M-0. We want to say incoming call sounds. Give this a quick save. Next, we want to work on our toggle button. And let's search for toggle. It's this one right here, checking radios. Let's scroll all the way down. And this is the one that we want, the second one. So it is this div. So let's copy it. Back into VS Code. Let's paste that in. All right, so there's a few things we need to tweak. So let's remove this text. Also here, let's remove the default margin. Give us a quick save. Now let's check it out. Here's our first item. All right, for our next 2 items, the differences between them will be the text and the icon. So I'm just gonna duplicate this 2 more times, and then you can change its content later. All right, so I will collapse this, copy everything here. And there's one subtle difference on the last item. So let's expand that and check out our live link. So the third item have this tag right here. So let's fit that in. and we want to put that right here. So let's say span with a class of ms5. So margin left 5, text muted, and then fs-7. Let's say lorem 4. Give us a quick save. And here's our tag. Alright, so back into the live link one more time. Let's work on this section right here. And once again, it's going to be the same thing, but this time we will not have the toggle buttons. Alright, so back into VS Code. The first thing we want to do is have a horizontal break. And let's have a class and remove its default margin. Now let's scroll up, collapse item 3. Let's copy item 1. So let's paste it here 4 more times. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's scroll up. I will collapse them. This would be 4, 5, 6, and then 7. Give this a quick save. And here's our settings. Alright, now let's work on our new message chat box. So let's collapse this. Alright, so what we want to do is use a Bootstrap module for this. So let's navigate to Bootstrap and search for a module. Let's scroll down. And right here. Let's copy everything here back into VS Code. And we're going to place this outside of the app bar div. So right here, we're going to place it here. Now let's scroll all the way up and get this comment. Scroll down. I will paste it here and say new chat. Next, we do not want this button, but we want its function. So let's copy these attributes right here. Now let's scroll up. So we want to paste it here inside our icon. We also want to set the type to be a button. And now let's rename it appropriately. So Command D. Let's say new chat. Now we can get rid of this button. Give this a quick save. Now let's check out our module. So when we click this icon, we should have our module like this. So next, what we want to do is place this module all the way to the bottom with its appropriate size and content. All right, let's work that out. So let's focus on our module. We can actually remove this comment. So here is our module head. Here's the body. And then here's the footer. So let's collapse this. Now let's focus on the head. The first thing we want to do is remove the backdrop. So if you notice, there's this default backdrop right here. And to remove that, we're going to use a attribute called data -bs backdrop. And we're going to set that to false. After this, we want a small module. So let's say module -sm. We're going to set its position to be absolute. And we want to set it to the bottom. So let's say bottom -0. And then we want to say right 0, which is n-0. We also want to define a width of 75% and then some box shadow. So let's say shadow. Next, we want to define some inline style. So let's say style, transform. We want to say translate X and then -80 pixel. All right, give this a quick save. Let's see our new module. And it is right here. All right, let's continue. So in the module content, we want to remove the default border. So let's say border -0. And now let's work on the head. In the module header, let's also include a class of align item start. And then we want to wrap the edge 5 within a div. Like that. And change the edge 5 to an edge 6. Just to have a smaller font size. We also want to say text dark. And after this, let's say margin bottom of 2. And then this label should be changed to new chat. All right, inside the text, let's say new message. And then underneath this, we want a label with a class of text-dark. Now let's remove the 4. And inside that, we want to say 2 and then colon. Next, let's have an input with a class of border-0. Give this a quick save. And here's our chat box header. All right, let's continue. Let's collapse the header and focus on the body. Let's add a class of shadow, m-0, and then inside that we want a paragraph tag with class of m-0, text primary for a blue text, and then fs-4. Inside that we want to say suggested. Give us a quick save. And here it is. Now let's work on the footer. So let's expand this. We're actually going to remove all these buttons. And in here, we want to remove the border. So border-0. We want some inline style. Let's set the min height to be 300 pixel. Give this a quick save. And here's our new message chat box. All right, now let's continue with our chat dropdown. So let's collapse this new chat. Here's our new message. And we completed our chat dropdown header. Now let's work on the search. So let's have an li tag with a class of p-1. All right, it's going to be the same as this section right here. So let's locate this element. And that's going to be in our main menu. And then inside our menu dropdown. And then inside our menu. And then inside that menu, here is the search that we're looking for. Let's copy that and recollapse this. Also the main menu dropdown. And we can actually remove this li and just paste everything here like this. Give this a quick save. And here's our search. And instead of search menu, let's say search messenger. Now let's work on our messages. So let's collapse this. So let's navigate to our live link. These will be our messages. We will have a big avatar, the message, and then a small avatar. All right, so back into VS Code. Let's have an li tag with a class of my-2 and also p-1. And then we also want to set the type to be a button. Inside our li, let's have a div with a class of dflex. Also align item center. And then justify content between. This will separate our big avatar and then our small avatar. So inside this div, we're going to have the big avatar and then the small avatar. Let's work on the big avatar. So let's have a div with a class of dflex. Once again, align item center. And then we want to say justify content evenly. Because inside this, we're going to have the actual avatar and then also the message. So let's work on the avatar itself. We want an image tag. And then once again, we're going to use Unsplash API. We're going to use the random /1. The alt will be avatar. We're going to say class rounded circle. Also some inline style. The width will be 58 pixel. Height will also be 58 pixel. And then object fit cover. We're actually going to grab this image in the div. And this div going to have a class of p-2. Next, let's work on the message. So let's have a div. And then we're going to have a paragraph tag with a class of fs-7 and then m-0. We're going to say Mike will be our first message. And then underneath this, we want a span tag with also a class of fs7 and then text-muted. Inside that, we want to say lorem ipsum and then a bullet symbol. So ampersand hashtag 8226 semicolon. And after that, we want to say 7 days. All right, give this a quick save. And here's our first friend. Now let's work on the small avatar right here. So I will scroll up. Let's have a div with a class of p-2. Inside that, we want our image tag. Once again, let's use unsplash. And it's gonna be random1. Avatar for the alt. Class will be rounded circle. And then some inline style. Our width will be 15 pixel. Height will also be 15. And then object fit cover. Alright, give this a quick save. And here's our first friend. It's the chat box for each friend. So when we click this, there should be a chat box right here. So in the live link, when we click on one of the friend, we want to show this main chat box right here. All right, let's work that out. So back into VS Code. So once again, it will be a module. So back in Bootstrap one more time, and let's copy this module right here. Now back into VS Code. Let's scroll all the way down here. Let's paste it here. Let's copy this comment. We're gonna paste this comment here. And then we're gonna say single chat. So once again, we want to remove this button, but we want to copy its function. So let's copy all of this right here into our clipboard. And let's scroll up into our li tag right here. We're gonna paste those attributes right here. Next, let's change these names accordingly. So Command D. And let's say single chat 1. Now let's remove this. Give this a quick save. So when we click on our friend, here's our new chat box. All right, let's flush this out. So once again, let's remove this. Let's scroll down. Here's our head. Here's the body. And then here's the footer. Once again, we're gonna set the backdrop to false. So data-bs-backdrop, and we're gonna set that to false. Now into module dialog, we want a small module. So module-sm, our position will be absolute. We want to set it to the bottom and to the right of 0, a width of 75%. Now some inline style. We're going to say transform translate x to be a -80 pixel. In our module content, let's say border-0 to remove the default border. And we want to add a shadow. All right, let's work on our head. So in the module head, we're going to have our avatar, the username, and then our close buttons. So let's check out that checkbox really quick. Into our live link, we have the avatar and the name, and also these icons right here. And also when we click on the name of our friend, there's going to be a menu right here. And this is going to be a pop over, not a drop down menu. All right, so let's work that out. Back into VS Code. All right, so the first thing we want to do is have a div with a class name of dropdown-item. Also deflex and then rounded. Inside this, we want our avatar and name. So let's work on our avatar. Let's have a div with a class name of position relative. So our avatar is gonna have a badge like this right here. This green badge to say that we're active. And that's why we're gonna set this into position relative to use the badge from Bootstrap. So the first thing we wanna do is get our image tag. And once again, we're gonna use unsplash. We're gonna use the random1. Avatar for the alt. We're gonna have a class of rounded circle. Also me-2. After this, we're gonna have some inline style. Let's give it a width of 38 pixel. Also a height of 38 pixel, and then object fit cover. After this, we want our span tag. We're gonna set the position to be absolute. And then we're gonna set it to the bottom, so bottom -0. Next, we're gonna translate it to the middle. And we want it to be green, so BG-success. And then a border. Our border color will be light. It will be a circle. And then we want a padding of 1 all around. We also want to define an inline style. So let's say left 75%. And then inside this span, we want another span. And let's use a class of visually hidden. Let's give this a quick save. And here's our avatar. All right, let's work on the name. So let's scroll down. Let's set up our div. And then inside a paragraph tag with a class of m-0. Inside that, we want to say Mike. And then we're going to use a font awesome icon. So let's navigate to font awesome. And let's search for something called down. Let's use this one right here and go down. Back into VS Code. We want to paste that here. And under our paragraph tag, we want a span tag with a class of text muted and then fs-7. Inside that, we want to say active now. Give this a quick save. And here's our avatar. All right, now let's work on the buttons. So we're gonna remove this title here. Let's go grab our 2 icons. First, let's search for video. So this one right here. Copy that. We want to paste that here. And then the next one will be the phone. So this one. All right, let's paste it here. Let's give some spacing between these icons. So mx-2. Text gonna be muted. And then the type will be button. All right, let's copy everything here. And also paste it down here. Give this a quick save. And here's our chat header. Now let's work on this pop over right here. So let's close this space here. And then let's scroll up. We want to target this div right here. Now let's go get the pop over code. So back into Bootstrap. Let's search for pop over. Let's scroll down and let's get the pop over left, which is the last one right here. Let's copy that back into VS Code. Let's paste it here. Let's copy all these attributes into our clipboard. Let's delete this. And then inside this div, we want to paste everything in. All right, let's give this a quick save. And here's our pop over. Now let's work on our pop over. So the first thing we want to do is set this type to be a button. And then we want to say data-bs HTML. We want to set that to true because we want to use HTML code inside the content right here. So let's navigate to Bootstrap. Let's scroll down. And this is the boilerplate code. If we want to use a custom template, let's copy that. Navigate back to VS Code. Let's actually paste it here. I will drop down into a new line. Let's clean this up. So right here, here. So the structure of the boilerplate code begins with the popover div, followed by the popover arrow, the header, and the popover body. So we're actually gonna remove the first 2 and also remove this right here. We will only use the popover body. So let's open our live link And check out the structure of our popover. We have two sections, the top and then the bottom. It includes an icon and then the text. All right, so let's work that out. So inside our body, let's work on the top section. So here we want to say display flex, and it's going to be flex column. Next, we want to remove the default padding. Now inside we want another div, and we're going to say class. We're going to say deflex, align item center, and it's going to be a drop down item. Padding 2 of all around, and then round it. Inside this, we want our icon and then our text. So let's work on our text first. Let's give it a class of m-0, and then we're going to say open messenger. Let's go grab our icon. So back into Font Awesome. Let's search for comment. Let's grab this one right here. Back into VS Code. Let's paste it here. Let's add the class of me-3 and then fs-4. Give this a quick save. And here's our first item. All right, let's continue. So our second item is going to be the same thing. So we're going to copy this div and then paste it here. We're going to change the icon from comment to user. And then we're going to say user profile. Give this a quick save. And here's our second items. All right, let's continue. So the next three items will be exactly the same. So I'm just going to copy this div, and then you can change its content later. And first we want to separate thing with a horizontal break. And then let's paste that in 3 times. Give this a quick save. And here's our popover. All right, let's continue with our chat window. So we completed the head. Now let's work on the body. First, we want to say overflow auto to enable scrolling within this checkbox. Next, let's have an inline style. Let's give it a max height of 300 pixels. And inside this, we're going to have our message left. So let's have an li tag with a class of list-group item, and then border-0, and then finally deflex. Inside the message, we will have the avatar and then the message itself. So let's work on our avatar. Let's have a div. Let's have our image tag. We're gonna have a class of rounded circle, and then me-2. Also inline style. We're gonna say width will be 28 pixel. Also height will be 28 pixel. Object fit will be cover. And now to our message, let's have a paragraph tag with a class of bg-gray, and then p-2, and then finally round it. Inside that, let's say lorem 3. Give this a quick save. And here's our first message. Oh, let's fix this issue right here really quick. The badge should be right here. So let's check our head div right here. Let's look around. Okay, it's in the avatar. It should be positioned instead of positive. So let's change this. Give it a quick save. And this is our badge. All right, let's continue with our message. So let's collapse the head. Here's our message. Let's actually copy this line. And the message will be the same. All we have to do is move it to the right and change the avatar. So let's paste it here. And let's say message right. And then let's move the message on top of the avatar. We're going to change from random 1 to random 2. We're going to change random 1 to our personal avatar, which is the collection of happy people. we want to set the margin right, so MS. And then inside the LI, we want to say justify content to be end. So it will push everything to the right. Give this a quick save. And here's our message. Alright, I will copy these messages 2 times. So the left and the right. 1, 2. Let's collapse them. Give it a quick save. And here's our checkbox body. Let's work on the input on the bottom. So that will be in our footer. So first let's collapse the body and focus on our footer. We want to expand this. Let's navigate to our live link. Let's check out the bottom. So we have a few icons, the input, and then the thumbs up icon right here. All right, let's work that out. Back into VS Code. We're actually going to remove all these buttons. And then in the module footer, we're going to remove the default border and all the default padding and margin. Next, we're going to have a div with a class of deflex. Inside that, we have our icons on the left, the input in the middle, and then the one icon of the thumbs up. So let's work on the multiple icons. Let's create another div with a class of deflex. And then also align item center. And then inside this, we want our 4 icons. So let's navigate to Font Awesome. Let's search for plus. And it is this one right here. Let's copy that back into VS Code. Let's paste it here. Now let's give some styling. Let's say MX-1, FS-5. Text will be muted. And then the type will be button. Alright, let's duplicate this 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Now let's change the icons from plus circle to file image. So file-image. And then next one will be portrait. And then this one will be adjust. Give this a quick save. And here are our icons. Now let's work on the input. So let's collapse this. And then let's have a div. Inside we want an input with a class of form control. We also want to say rounded-pill, border-0, and then BG-gray. Let's have a placeholder. Let's say AA. Give this a quick save. And here's our input. Now let's work on our last icon. So let's collapse this. Let's have a div with a class of deflex, align item center, and then MX-2. Inside that, we want our icon. So back into Font Awesome. Let's search for thumbs. And this one right here. Let's copy that back into VS Code, and we're going to paste it here. Let's add some classes. Let's say FS-5. Text will be muted. And then the type will be button. Give this a quick save. And here's our input. Alright, there's one more thing that we want to do. So let's check our live link. If you notice, everything is gray in the beginning, but when we hover over it, there's a hover state of blue. So let's work that out. Back into VS Code. We're going to jump into our main CSS. Let's put it here and say chat box. What we want to do is target the module content. So module content. And then we want to say hover. We want to target all of our icons. So the first one will be our phone, FA-phone-ALT. We want to set the color to be this blue. And we also want to say important. Next, let's copy this line and duplicate it 6 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Our next icon will be the video. So FA video and then file image. Next is the plus circle. And then portrait. After this is adjust. And then we have our thumbs up. All right, give this a quick save and let's check it out. So when we hover, we have this hover state of blue. All right, cool. This complete our chat box. So let's close this and let's add a few more friends. So back into VS Code, back into feed. All right, let's scroll up and collapse our single chat. Let's go all the way up here and collapse our message. So this is our message 1. So let's duplicate this 4 times. And all of these messages will be the same. The only difference will be the avatar and the name and also the individual chat box. All right, so let's edit one together and then you can change its content later on. So right here, message 1, let's change that to 2. And then single chat, we're gonna set that to 2 also. Random, we're gonna set that to 2. So let's copy this and Command D, we're gonna change that to 2. And our friend will be Tuan. And that's pretty much it. Let's collapse this. I'm also going to collapse this. Give it a quick save. Now let's edit the single chat box for Tuan. So let's scroll down. What we want to do is actually copy this whole div. First, let's have a comment. So chat 1. This will be chat 2. Let's scroll up. We want to change this into single chat 2. So Command D. So change this to 2. Now let's scroll down. This will be 2. Mike will be Tuan. Let's scroll down. So this right here. Let's press Command D. And change that to a 2. And I think that's pretty much it. Let's give it a quick save and check it out. So we click on Tuan. Here's our chat box. All right, cool. Now I will collapse this. So essentially each message will belong to each chat box. And that's how you edit them. So later on, you just add your own content. All right, that should wrap up our message drop down here. Let's move forward and work on our notifications. So let's collapse this. And now notifications. All right, let's expand the chat right here. And we want to copy this div. Let's collapse that back and paste it here in notification. The only thing we need to change is the icon. So let's say bell instead of comment. Give this a quick save. And here's our notification. Let's change this to be notification menu. Let's collapse this. And let's copy this UL right here. We're gonna say notification dropdown. Let's paste that in. Let's MTL the UL. So all the way here, let's remove that. We want to change this to notification menu. Give this a quick save. And here's our notification dropdown. So let's look at our live link. We will have the header and then the news section. All right, let's work that out. So back into VS Code. Inside our UL, we're gonna have our header and then the news. So let's say new one right here. So let's work on the header. Let's look at our live link one more time. So this icon right here is actually gonna be another drop down like this. So let's work that out. Back into VS Code. Let's have an li tag with a class of p-1. And inside this, we want a div with a class of dflex and then justify content between. First, we want our h2. We're gonna say notifications, and then we want a div under this. The first thing we want is our icon, and then the second drop down menu. So let's just say icon drop down, and it's gonna be our ellipsis icon. So let's say I with class of FAS, and then FA hyphen ellipsis, so ELLIP hyphen H. We also want to say rounded circle, and then P hyphen 2, also BG hyphen gray. The type will be a button. Let's give that a quick save. And here it is. We need to capitalize this letter right here. Now let's work on the drop down first. So inside our icon, let's say data hyphen BS hyphen toggle, and we're gonna say drop down. And here we want our UL with a class of drop down hyphen menu. Inside that, we want our individual items. So let's have our li tag with a class of drop down item. And then we're gonna say deflex align item center. The type will also be a button. And then inside our li tag, we want our icon. We're gonna use the check icons. So let's say I class of FAS, and then FA hyphen check. We also want some margin right. So let's say ME hyphen 3, and then text muted. Next, let's have a paragraph tag with a class of M hyphen 0, and we're gonna say mark all as read. Give this a quick save. And here's our dropdown. All right, let's continue. All right, there's one thing that we need to tweak, and that's in our UL. So let's remove overflow auto right here. And what we want to do is go inside our inline style and add overflow Y to be auto. Give this a quick save. All right, let's continue with our icon drop down. So once again, the difference between them will be the icon and the text. So I would just duplicate this 2 times, and then you can change its content later. Like that. Give this a quick save. And here's our dropdown right here. All right, let's move forward with our header. So let's collapse our icon dropdown. All right, let's collapse this div right here. The next thing we want to do is have the all and the unread buttons. So let's have a div with a class of deflex, and the type will be button. Inside this, we want a paragraph tag with a class of rounded hyphen pill, also BG hyphen gray. Next, P hyphen 2. Inside that, we want to say all. Let's duplicate this line, and we're gonna say unread right here. Let's tweak the classes. So let's say MS hyphen 3. Instead of BG gray, we're gonna say primary to use the blue. And then we're gonna say text white. Give this a quick save. And here's our drop down header. Now let's work on each of the news notification right here. So let's collapse our header and focus on the new. First, let's have a div with a class of deflex, and then justify content between. We also want to say MX hyphen 2. Inside that, we want an H5 that's say news, and also an anchor tag, hashtag right here. Let's say class text decoration none, and then see all. Give us a quick save. And there it is. Now into the individual news. So actually this is news, and this will be new 1. So let's navigate to our live link. So we're gonna have an avatar, text, and a badge right here. Back into VS Code, let's set that up. First, let's have an li tag with a class of my-2, and then also p-1. Inside that, we want our a tag, hashtag for href, and then we also want to say class of deflex, align item center, and then justify content evenly. Next, we're gonna say text decoration to be none, also text to be dark. All right, now inside our A tag, we want another div with a class of deflex, also align item center, and then also justify content evenly. Inside this, we want our avatar and the message. So avatar, and then message. Let's have a div with a class of p-2. Inside that, we want our image tag, and we're going to use the random one. Avatar for the alt. We want to say class rounded circle, and some inline style. Width will be 58 pixel. Height will also be 58 pixel, and then object fit cover. Now we want our message, so let's have a div. Let's have a paragraph tag with a class of fs-7 and also m-0. Let's have some lorem ipsum, 10 characters, and also a span tag under this. And let's have fs-7 class, and then text primary to have a blue text. And we want to say about an hour ago. Give this a quick save. Let's fix this right here to say source. And we also need to say .com right here. Here's our large avatar, our message. Now we need this small badge right here. So let's work on that. So we want to collapse this div right here. And then here we just want to use the icon circle. So let's say the class will be FAS, FA-circle. And then we want to use our custom font size. And then finally text-primary. Give this a quick save. And here's our blue badge. All right, once again, all these items will be the same. So I will duplicate this about 4 more times. And then you can change its contents later. So let's copy this. Give this a quick save. And here's our notifications. And here's our dropdown. All right, let's move forward. And that complete our notification dropdown. The last one we're gonna work on will be our secondary menu. All right, once again, let's copy this icon right here. Let's paste it here. I will scroll up instead of bell. Let's say caret down. Give this a quick save. And here's our secondary menu. Let's change this to say second menu. All right, let's copy this UL right here. So let's collapse the secondary menu. So let's say secdd for drop down. Let's paste that in. And we're gonna remove everything inside the UL. So right here, we're gonna change this to say sec menu. We can actually remove this style right here. And let's check out our live link. So here's our secondary menu. It will have our avatar, this top section, and then this bottom section right here. And these will also be a secondary menu. All right, let's work that out. Back into VS Code. The first thing is our avatar. And then let's say feedback. And then we're gonna have some options. All right, let's work on our avatar. Let's have an li tag with a class of drop-down item. Also p-1, rounded, and then deflex. The type will be button. Inside this, we want our image. We're gonna use the Happy People collection. And then avatar here. Next, let's say rounded circle. And then ME-2. Some inline style. Width would be 45 pixel. Also the height. Object fit cover. After this, we want a div, a paragraph tag with a class of m-0. Inside, we're gonna say John. Let's duplicate this and say text muted right here. And we're gonna say see your profile. Give this a quick save. And here it is. All right, let's continue. The next thing we want to work on is the feedback section. So let's have a horizontal break. And then inside, let's have an li tag with a class of dropdown -item. Also p-1. We're gonna say rounded, deflex, and then align item center. Inside that, we want our icon. So let's navigate to font awesome. And let's search for exclamation right here. Let's grab this one right here. Let's copy it back into VS Code. We want to paste it here. Let's add some class. So bg-gray, p-2, and then rounded circle. Below this, let's have a div with a class of ms3. We want a paragraph tag with a class of m-0. And inside, let's say give feedback. Let's duplicate this. And let's say text muted, fs-7. Let's say help us improve Flexbook. All right, give this a quick save. And here it is. All right, now let's work on the options section. So I'm gonna collapse this. So first thing first, we want a horizontal break. And remember, these options have a nested menu inside them. All right, so let's work that out. So right here will be our option 1. Let's have an li tag with a class of dropdown -item, p-1, my-3, and then round it. This will also be a button. Inside this, we want a ul with a class of navbar-nav. And then inside that, we want another li that's a nav-item. And then inside our li, we want our text and our icon first. So let's have a div with a class of deflex. The first thing we want is our icon. And it's gonna be a cog icon. So let's say fas, fa-cog. And then we want a bg gray. And then p-2. And then finally rounded circle. Next, we want our text. So let's have a div with a class of deflex. And then we're gonna say justify content between. And then also align item center. We're gonna set the width to be 100. And then finally ms-3. Inside this, we want a paragraph tag with a class of m-0. That's gonna say settings and privacy. Next, let's have an icon. So we're gonna say fas and then fa-chevron-right. Give this a quick save. And here's our first option item. Let's fix this right here. It should be ampersand. All right. Now let's work on the drop down menu. So this div right here, let's add in the data BS toggle, and it's gonna be drop down. So under here, we're gonna say nested menu. We can actually collapse these lines right here, and let's just focus on the nested menu. So the first thing we want is our UL tag and a class of drop down -menu. Inside that, we want our li tag, and then inside that, our anchor tag, hashtag for the href, and then we want to define some classes. So let's say drop down -item, deflex, align item center. Inside this, first we want a div with a class of deflex, align item center, also justify content center. Next, rounded circle, and then p-1, bg-gray, and then me-2. Inside this, we will have our cog icon, so fa-cog. And then under this div, we're gonna have a paragraph tag with the class of m-0 that says settings. Alright, give this a quick save. And here is our nested menu. Alright. So once again, the only difference between these items will be the text and the icons. So I will just duplicate this about 5 more times. Give this a quick save. And here's our nested menu. Alright. So that is our first option. And we're gonna have 3 more options, and they're basically the same thing. So I'm just gonna copy option 1. Give this a quick save. And here are our options. We want to tweak the last one to say logout. So let's go here. We're actually going to remove the nested menu because it doesn't have one. And then under this li, we're going to change this into a tag. So also down here, we're going to change the href, and we're going to set the href back into the login screen. Next, we're gonna say text decoration none, and also text-dark. And let's change this to say logout. We're also gonna move this icon right here. And then we also need to remove this drop-down attribute right here. Give this a quick save. All right, let's log back in. And this will wrap it up for our app bar. Let's move forward. So let's collapse our app bar right here. And then the next thing we want to do is work on our main content, which is these sections right here. Our sidebar, timeline, and our chat bar. So back into VS Code.